Hello, Trideltas. I am Mindy Tucker, Tridelta's interim CEO, and I'm joined today by my fellow podcast host and our development manager at the foundation, Meredith Davies. So glad to have her with us. And today we get to interview a young alumna, Allie Waite of Toledo. She is in her first year as a practicing attorney in Cleveland, Ohio, and engaged to be married and recently purchased her first home. She's got a lot going on. Congratulations. She is literally killing it, and that's not surprising. As a collegian, she was philanthropy chair and then chapter president. She was a Sarah Ida Shaw nominee. She is a law school graduate. She's a Tridelta scholarship recipient. The list goes on and on and on. So really excited to have her here today to share a little bit about her story. I mentioned scholarships. You may wonder, where do these magic Tridelta scholarships come from? Well, we are going to tell you. Meredith, do you want to share a little bit with our listeners about Tridelta's foundation before we get started?
I would love to. So, Tridelta's Foundation is the only organization that connects our nearly 250,000 members with ways to empower collegiate and alumni women through transformational programs, scholarships, and emergency financial assistance. Tridelta's Foundation is 100% supported by the donations of Tridelta sisters and friends. How awesome is that? We are so proud to have awarded a substantial $626,300 to 227 recipients this year in scholarships. So that number keeps growing every single year, and we're so thrilled with the support that we're able to provide such wonderful and outstanding members. So we have Allie here today to hear about all the amazing things that she has done, and hopefully you'll see why Allie was a scholarship recipient herself.
I love it. Well, let's get into your story. Allie, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have you.
Mindy, Meredith, thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your Toledo journey and your Tridelta journey? How did you end up at that school, and what made you choose Tridelta?
Sure. So I grew up, I think I should start there, south of Detroit near the Ohio-Michigan border. So I have two sisters, an older and a younger sister, making me the middle child. And my older sister went to college first, and she settled down at the University of Toledo, and then she joined a sorority. And so I was a sophomore in high school, and watching her go through that experience and just the support that she had, I knew that was always something I wanted to add to my collegiate career. And a quick story, there was a year where there was storms around Easter, and so we hosted a bunch of her sorority sisters at our house, and seeing them interact was so special, and I just knew that was something I wanted. So then when the time came for me to choose a college, I also decided to go to the University of Toledo. It was close to home. My sister already was established there, and I just thought the transition would be great. And of course, I wanted to join a sorority. So I went through recruitment, and then I ended up landing on Tridelta. And I think really what drew me in was the girls, definitely. Throughout recruitment, the conversations were super genuine. And then the second thing was the philanthropy. I just fell in love with St. Jude and the idea of helping children. And then in high school, I also had a friend who had leukemia. And so I had that personal connection to St. Jude and what they do. So it just made the most sense. And I'm so glad I made that decision.
Well, so are we. So are we. So many people have that St. Jude connection before they get to college, and then they meet Tridelta, and it just kind of all comes full circle for them. So it's
Mhm.
interesting that you had that connection as well. So what made you decide to go to law school?
Yeah, so I took a AP US government class or some sort of variation my senior year of college. And then I started thinking about how could I make something like this a career? And I started talking to people who my sister was friends with in college and what the sort of things that they were doing. And then I decided I think I'm going to go to law school. I think that's what I want to do as a senior in high school, not knowing what a lawyer does. So um, I went to the University of Toledo and I got a degree in paralegal studies. And I thought, well, if I don't end up going to law school, I know I want to do something in the law, and this will allow me to be a part of that environment in a meaningful way. But I don't have to take the second step if I don't want to. And then my second year of college, I really got into the classes, and it was kind of like a mini law school. And I thought, this is something that I can see taking to the next level and that I want to do. So I started talking to attorneys in the area, and I was getting this sense that these people are leaders in their community, not only in their careers, but outside of it. And this is something that I want to do. I want to help people. Um, and yeah, it just all connected, joining Tri Delta and then talking to attorneys and thinking like, yeah, this is something I can do. And I can't believe it. That's what I do now. So it worked out.
You're there. You've done it. How did you first find out about Tri Delta's scholarships and what made you decide to apply?
So I actually didn't know at first when I joined Tri Delta how many opportunities there are um, for financial assistance, that being the scholarships for school and then also just like life events.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I found out originally through the Trident, oddly enough. Um, so I was going through and I saw this giant list of names, and I was thinking, wow, that's crazy that we have all this funding, and amazing that we have all this funding for people. And I just kind of like brushed it off, whatever. And then I remember at a chapter meeting, our advisor had said, by the way, Tri Delta scholarship season is open, shoot your shot. Anyone can apply. You should apply. There's plenty of funds to go around. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I saw that in the Trident. Yeah, whatever. And then she specifically came to me and was like, I can write a recommendation for you, knowing she knew I wanted to go on to law school, and graduate school is not cheap.
Right.
And so she said, I think this is something you should look into. You're very involved in the chapter, and why not? The worst they could say is no. And so she really encouraged me. She wrote me a fantastic letter of recommendation, and then it took off from there.
I love it. When we give these scholarships, I know every story is different, but they have an impact on your journey and how you're traversing the journey. What was the impact for you? What did it mean to you to get the scholarship?
It meant a lot. So I said previously, my sister had gone to college 2 years before me. We are first generation students. So for me, um, having financial stability was my livelihood. And so throughout college and throughout law school, even, I was working. And so being a full time student and working part time is very difficult. And anyone who's gone to graduate school knows how much of an undertaking it is. And so for me, it was very hard to balance the full time school load along with a part time job, and having financial assistance through Tri Delta several times. I was fortunate enough to be awarded several scholarships. Really saved me. It allowed me to cut back on shifts at work and focus on my schoolwork. So in undergrad, that looks like me maintaining a 4.0 because I didn't have to work as much, and I could be as involved in my chapter as possible for the time that I wasn't spending at work anymore. I put it into the chapter. So I was able to serve as philanthropy chair, chapter president, and then I went on to do president of Panhellenic Council. So that was wonderful. I was able to give back in a different way because I had the time to give to it. And then later on in graduate school and law school, same thing. I could cut back hours at work and I could focus on my academics, which in law school, for anyone who knows, that's your livelihood. Whatever you get on that final exam, you get one grade in every class, and it's the final exam. And so you have to give it your all, that those 4 hours you're taking that exam, and it is what it is. And then those grades open up opportunities for jobs. So it's really crucial that you do well in your final exams because that can limit your opportunities later on. And so for me, the time that I wasn't spending at work, I was spending in the books. And then I also had a few volunteer roles with the collegiate chapter at the university I was going to law school at. So I spent a lot of time in there, and then that allowed me to have more opportunities in the job market And now that it completely affects my life today and the type of job that I have. So I'm very thankful.
And where'd you go to law school?
I stayed at the University of Toledo. So I graduated in May of 2020 during COVID. Every law school was going online. And oddly enough, the University of Toledo was in person. And so I was like, you know what? I'm established here. I think the signs are right. And then I also had the opportunity to start volunteering with the chapter that I just graduated from. So it was really cool.
Love that. You did a good job of like, I think we hear about a scholarship and we know it helps with the money, but you did a really good job of like unpacking all the layers to it, the hours you get to cut back to do other things and what that means and how that affects your earning potential down the road and
Hmm.
where you're able to go to law school. I don't think we think about that. But there's so many ripple effects to these scholarships. I think it's great to hear you talk about the impact that it had in your life. Meredith, what do you have you want to ask Allie about?
Yeah, I mean, in foundation land, we call that a mission moment. I just had a mission moment sitting here listening to you share what that meant to you. Um, and I know that there are lots of donors who like to listen to our podcast. So if you could speak directly to our donors, think you're sitting across the table with a woman who donated to a scholarship fund that you received, what would you want to share with that donor or with our donors?
Yeah, if anyone takes away anything from this podcast episode, I think it would be this moment right now. The first thing that I would say is thank you. It truly was like, I feel like I'm gonna cry. It truly was life-changing for me, not only like the first time I was awarded, but then continuing to get that call, that I was picked like a first generation law student who didn't know if law school was an option. And then just seeing like strangers supporting things that I wanted to do. Um, I did not plan this.
You can cry, it's okay.
Sorry.
Your life stories, they make us cry.
Yeah, so um first of all, thank you. That is like the number one thing. And your impact is felt. Now I'm so fortunate to be in the position to turn around and do the same thing that these people did for me. So thank you. And the ripple effect, as Mindy said, it will continue. I'm so fortunate. I don't think if I have received that financial assistance, I would have been able to do as well as I did throughout undergrad and then again throughout law school, which has put me in a position to now give back to other people who are like me and don't know if they're able to really fulfill their dreams and are step back because of financial struggle. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Allie, I love that so much. I've been having the most wonderful interactions with scholarship recipients in the last few weeks and months. And I was speaking to a young alumna a few months ago, and she said, after the first time I received a scholarship, I knew from that day forward that I was going to promise Tri Delta that I would come back and do it for somebody else because it
Hmm.
made such an impact. And I, how lucky are we to have sisters in our corner behind us every step of the way? And I mean, it's moments like these that make the work just mean so much to me. And it means so much to our donors to be able to do things like this. So thank you for sharing that. And my heart is so warm right now from what you're sharing. It just makes me so happy. But I'd love to know what else Tri Delta gave you. What skills, um, things like that. Did you skills, leadership skills, personal skills, friend skills? Did you learn in Tri Delta that you've taken with you in your life?
Oh my gosh, what didn't I learn? I feel like um, that is such a prime age, joining at 19, very formative years. And the first thing I learned was definitely leadership skills. When I was in the chapter, they did slating for officers at that time. I think now it's a little bit different. Um, but at that time, as a sophomore in college, I was slated as chapter president. And so I was young for that role, which can be very overwhelming. So I learned and picked up on leadership skills very, very quickly, and how to talk in front of a group of people. I think that was like the number one thing that I learned. um, that year. I think before then I was panel delegate, philanthropy chair, and then I was chapter president. And as panel delegate, you have to speak in front of a large group of people. And I remember the first time I got up there, I'm like shaking with my little paper about, what the weekend events were, what we were volunteering at, to share with the rest of the chapters. And so that is an invaluable skill that I learned very quickly. Um, I learned people skills. I think it's funny. My second year of law school, you do these things called OCIs, and they're on campus interviews, and you essentially go from table to table talking to every law firm or public interest group or whatever you're into. And you have like a quick interview, and it is the most recruitment like experience. And it's funny, I have coworkers who are also sorority women, and we joke all the time, like, recruitment prepared us so well for that moment. Just having an elevator speech and rolling with it and being confident. So those skills were invaluable and helped me get to where I am today. And I'm very thankful to have had a space to grow in and make mistakes in. And then, when it really counted in those moments, I had already rehearsed several times over, and it became muscle memory.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things about sorority life, about Tri Delta, is that you get to make those mistakes in a cushioned environment where the mistakes you make aren't as serious as they would be if you made them 3 years later, and things
Hmm.
like that, like recruitment, practicing for a job interview. I mean, these are awesome things that we get to learn and practice a few times with in a safe space with friends and
Yeah.
okay, so I'm getting the sense that you are a very driven individual. What do you attribute that to?
I believe it came from my dad. I think watching him, he's very much so a provider type of mentality, and he always has been. I think he instilled in me a very hard work ethic, know what you want and go for it. And watching him as I was growing up work as hard as he does and provides what he can, I knew like I wanted to be able to do that. And so I felt like I had to be very calculated and know kind of what my next move was at every stage of my life, um, to get me to this point. And so I think I attribute that attribute to him and his work ethic. And I'm very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Okay, switching gears a little bit, something fun. Give me your top three collegiate Tri Delta memories.
Top three. The first one off the top of my head, when I was philanthropy chair, I organized all the volunteers and we did D-Hop. I'm sure they still do it now. So it was really fun. I remember calling up my dad and telling him, "Oh, I'm putting on this event for St. Jude, where there's gonna be a pancake breakfast." And he was like, "Can I come and can I help?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so there is a photo of me and my dad, standing in front of the assembly line or the buffet line, and my dad served at Delta House of Pancakes when I was philanthropy chair, and it was the best experience ever.
Oh,
Um,
that. We
yeah,
love a Delta dad. They're the
we love a
best.
Delta dad. He served pancakes and he also was the grease master, so we served bacon with the pancakes. And so he was dumping hot grease. But yeah, I cherish that memory. It was a really great memory. We have a really cute photo together.
Awesome.
Two more.
One's good too if it's hard
What?
to think
Yeah,
of
I
three.
think
I had to
that is
ask for
like,
three, of course.
yeah, yes, of course. That one's by far my favorite. I think the second one would be getting my littles. That was like such a great moment. I always wanted to be a mentor, and to be able to mentor another woman, let alone two, has been really awesome. And we've maintained contact since. And just like being a cheerleader with them throughout their lives has been like a really awesome experience, then and now. And the third, oh, I went to CLC And that was a great time. I also got to go to, this might count as like 3 in 1, but I went to Memphis 2 times. I got to visit St. Jude. So those were both very impactful experiences. And I'm very thankful I got to go once, let alone twice, one as philanthropy chair and then the second as chapter president. So those are
Thank you,
really,
trips
really
are
great trips.
so memorable. I think you just being there
Hmm.
doing. And you mentioned CLC for our listeners that may not know, that's Collegiate Leadership Conference,
Hmm.
which is also partially funded by Tri Delta's Foundation. So the leadership skills that you gained there come from money that's provided by donors to the foundation. So I love how you brought that full circle for us, those memories. And we're gonna have to find the picture of her and her dad at D Hop and put it attach it to the podcast here. So
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. And it sounds like, well, also, I want to say one more thing that you said that I think is really important. You talked about getting your little sister, and you said, I always wanted to be a mentor. And I'm so glad you said that, because that role is really intended to be that way, to act as a
Hmm.
sponsor and a mentor for that woman who is younger than you and who will look up to you and you can guide along the way. So glad to hear. I love that you said the word mentor as part of that. So, and it sounds like Tri Delta might still be part of your life. What does Tri Delta look like today in your young alumni hood?
Yeah, absolutely. I think now, at first, I was volunteering with the chapter right out of the gate, and I have recently relocated. So I'm looking to dive back into that, maybe with a university that's closer to me now, as opposed to Toledo being a little bit further. But also, it looks like a perpetual bond of friendship. I still have contact with a lot of my sisters. I'm in a book club with one of them. The other ones, it looks like long weekends hanging out in our hometowns, and really just great friends that I love to be around who are my sisters. And I'm so thankful for the friendships that I made during those 4 years and beyond. And it's really crazy when you talk to people how connected we all are. Everybody knows somebody, and you're always, 1 degree or 3 degrees away from somebody. Um, and so now Tri Delta looks like the friendship part. And I'm really excited to add more volunteerism as I get established in my new city. Um, but yeah, right now we're reading books and we're hanging out.
That's
Love
so
it.
funny. I am also in a Tri Delta-ish, I'm Tri Delta adjacent book club that
I
started.
love that.
Met one friend who's a Tri Delta at Arkansas, or was a Tri Delta. She is a Tri Delta. She joined at Arkansas. She has 3 friends, and now we've got a book club of like 15 people, and all the Tri Deltas just brought somebody else in from somewhere else in their life. I
Yeah,
think Tri Delta book clubs are the best kinds of book clubs.
I agree.
Love that. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about applying for a scholarship?
The first thing I would say is get involved in your chapter. You only have 4 years. This experience goes by really fast. Um, so don't be passive. Get involved. You will only get as much out as you put into the experience. So that would be the first thing I would say. Then the second thing I would say, shoot your shot. You never know. There is so much funding available, and you don't know until you try. And so don't self eliminate, be confident, be brave, be bold, and go for it.
I love that. And what's next for you? Where are you headed next? What's going on? You've just moved to Cincinnati. Did I see that right?
To Cleveland,
Cleveland. Cleveland.
Ohio City with a C. You were close. Close enough. Um, For me, I'm at this crazy point in my life where, as I said earlier, I've always had to be very calculated and know what's coming next. And for the first time ever, I don't know what's next. And I'm really excited about that, actually. It's allowed me to enjoy where I'm at now even more than ever before because I'm not thinking about the next thing. So right now I'm just getting settled in my job, getting settled in my new house, learning how to do marriage, and just hoping for the best.
I love it. Well, we wish you all the best. We have loved having you come and talk to us today. And I know our listeners are going to really feel special to be brought into your story and understand how the donors to Tri Delta are really having an impact out there. So thanks for being with us. And I know everyone out there, you guys know how expensive college is, and we've just had such a great picture of how these scholarships can make a difference for our members. So grateful to Allie and grateful to all of our donors who make those possible. And Meredith, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, if you're an alumna and you are 33 years of age or younger, you are welcome to join the Friendship Society, which is a special giving society just for alumni under 33. It's a great way to make a donation that's really meaningful to you in your current stage of life. It's a giving society that's meant to grow with you as you progress in your career through your 20s and early 30s, which I think is a really special thing that the Friendship Society offers. It also comes with some inside looks at Tri Delta and friendships and cute pins and every once in a while a happy hour. So please come join us. And to anyone, obviously, who's considering making a donation to your sisters, Allie is the perfect embodiment of why we do what we do. So we hope you consider making a gift in honor of Allie, in honor of any other sisters you know who received a scholarship or any other funding through Tri Delta's foundation, because the work that we are doing is possible because of donors like you.
I want to be 33 again. I'm too old. Like, I can't go have all the fun with the young alums. They didn't have this when I was younger.
Maybe that's what everyone says to me, and I feel really badly about it. I really do.
I'll fudge my way. Anyway, well, thanks to Allie. Thanks to Meredith. I hope all of you enjoyed this great story today about the impact of Tri Delta's foundation. We hope you will like and rate our podcast. We love those 5-star ratings. Even though there's 3 stars on our crescent, you can do 5-star ratings for our podcast. Thank you all for joining us today. And until next time, Delta love.